righty, gentlemen. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are streaming live, and I think it's time, I guess, as we normally say, because I forgot to say it before we started streaming live, which is, gentlemen, here we go again.
Indeed.
The Discussing Network presents Discussing Who, a Doctor Who podcast. I'm Kyle Jones, and I want to start by welcoming back this week Clarence Brown. Mr. Brown, how are you?
I'm doing well, man. And like I say each and every week, just about, glad to be back on with you guys to chop it up.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. And welcome back, Win Grace, in the chat, Alon Z.
As the
Well
idiots say.
said. Yes.
Not calling you an idiot. I'm the idiot.
So
It's a line from the show.
it is. So, question for you, Clarence Brown, since I still got it on with you. If there's someone who is listening to this podcast for the very first time, what might you tell them if they wish to subscribe?
Yeah, well, first of all, you can support the show by subscribing, leaving a review, and telling a friend. If you have a review idea or anything else you'd love us to know, you can send that in to discussingwho@gmail.com or hit us up at discussingwho on any and all social medias.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. And for the rounding out of the virtual TARDIS console that we have here, welcome back, Lee Shackelford.
Hi, guys. As Clarence likes to say, they're glad to be here to talk about this stuff with y'all. So, this is a topic suggested by a listener. So,
Yes, indeed, Jamie.
we're Jamie. Yes, thank
Yes.
you. And we're all on the high wire now. I think.
Indeed.
We'll just see what happens.
Indeed, indeed. And you know what? I am going to make a prediction right now. The prediction is we're going to enjoy this chat.
I
That's
think
going to be
so.
But for just like I had a question for Clarence Lee, I have a question for you. There is something that you like to tell people who are listening and are watching. And what is that you like telling them?
Just hey there, and thank you. We know you got a lot of other things you could be doing, and you're choosing to spend this time with us, and it just means the world to us. So thank you from the bottom of our six hearts
Six
between the
hearts.
three of us. Yeah.
Indeed, indeed. So I'm debating, and knowing me as I do, because I
You
am
know.
me. So not me from season 9, I will say, but me. I will go ahead and say that this has been a very long work day for me, and because of that, my arterial flow is about down to a trickle, so I will say just bear with me. That said, I just want to say if anyone has not seen the 9th Doctor adventures through the 15th Doctor's adventures so far, put us on pause.
Every
Go
single
out,
one.
watch
Yep.
them wherever you want to stream them. Come back, because from this moment forward, spoilers. Gentlemen, do you think that I can go through an episode, or should I go through an episode not doing a spoiler warning?
I don't think you have the ability to do that, but
It's literally not possible.
yes. No, not
Well,
possible.
I mean, we on discussing Trek last night. You sounded a spoiler warning for all of Trek. So
What can I say?
so it's
I do have one thing I could say back about that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's all right then.
Yeah.
Oh.
Apparently it is.
Okay. So the object of us being here tonight, all jokes aside, is the idea of comparing and contrasting different incarnations of the Doctor. And the argument could be had, well, they're the same character, because that's what Whovians love to say, is, well, I don't have a favorite Doctor because they're all the same character.
Yeah, but they are and they aren't.
But they are and they aren't. That is it. So here's what we're going to do. The idea was to compare and contrast. What we're going to do is go through and take our picks. We're going to do comparisons first. Then we're going to go back and celebrate the differences of the and I don't know what Lee is going to pick. Clarence doesn't know what I'm going to pick. and when Grace doesn't know what Robert Picardo is going to pick. And for anyone listening, I'll tell you and show you why I say that. Does Robert Picardo count? He's part of
Oh,
Voyager. He's a doctor, but not the doctor. There you go.
His name is literally the Doctor. So
it's in the credits. He is the Doctor. It
Well,
says so right there, man.
He's a the doctor, but not the doctor.
The genuine article.
The original, you might say.
That's right.
So, you know what? I'm not going to put you guys on the spot. I'm going to go first with the comparison round, and I am going to go on the fly and pick, believe it or not, the 10th and the 12th Doctor. Why am I picking that? Because I'm looking at the image that we have for that, and those two just caught my attention. So if I were to compare the 10th Doctor, are they similar, the 10th Doctor and the 12th Doctor? I would first say the first thing that comes to my head is both has a presence, both have a character arc, as in they grow or change throughout the course of their tenure as the Doctor. I would say the 10th Doctor mellowed where the 12th Doctor mellowed and became more friendly. But to some degree, I would say the 10th Doctor went in reverse to somewhat, because we had Time Lord victorious. So he had a different, not the same type of arc, but there was some coldness that got instilled in him toward the end. He was still that 10th Doctor that we knew, but he did have a level of development nonetheless. Any thoughts on my initial thoughts from either of you?
Oh yeah, man. By the end of David Tennant's run, he just felt stone cold almost. Was it Children of Blood is the episode I'm thinking of?
Oh,
Children of Waters of Mars.
Will Waters of Mars was the one with him and Martha and he lost his memory.
Oh,
yeah,
And at the end, he
that's
vanished.
Family of Blood.
Family of
Yeah.
Blood. Family of
Yes,
Blood.
yeah.
Yeah, and that's the one that jumps out to me because I am judge and juror. I am laying the law
And
down.
Executioner. Yeah.
Yeah, an executioner, and yeah, that was the first wink that I got of like him just being stone cold at times, or just not playing around at all. He's exerting his authority. By the same token, I agree with you totally with Peter Capaldi. Whereas at the very beginning, people felt like he was kind of gruff. I think I remember you guys comparing him to the first Doctor a little bit, and how gruff he was. But by the end, very mellow, very fun. I mean, sonic shades and guitars. We're doing all that. But yeah, I can definitely see your comparison there, Cal. It makes a lot of sense.
So, Clarence, let me go with you. If you were to choose off the cuff two versions of the Doctor that you would like to compare, who would they be, and what were your thoughts?
Mine will once again be David Tennant, like you just mentioned, but for different reasons, and Jodie Whittaker, and the reason being is that the 10th and the 13th, to me, the love interest part of it was very much front and center with the 10th, kind of in the background, but kind of there. And they definitely played that up again, sort of at the end of Jodie Whittaker's run. Not very subtle, but, we got some very interesting moments with her and Yaz by the end of it. And the reason I bring that up in particular is like, just being, I don't know if I loved it when it was, Martha funning over the 10th Doctor. But, just being open to it in a totally different context. I felt like it was very interesting once we got to Jodie Whittaker. So that's the comparison I have between them two. I found that very interesting seeing it from a different angle, totally. But still, I think we kind of don't want the Doctor to have a love interest. But
Mm.
it was interesting to see how it was portrayed in both with both Doctors.
Mm. So I want to ask a question before I go to Lee's initial thoughts. Do we want the Doctor to have a love interest? And I know we said we were going to stick from 9 forward, but you know, back in the past, I know it's been said, and we probably said it on this show before. Peter Davison was told you're not to, you know, arm up with the other companions and
Be careful
whatnot.
how you touch them.
Be
Yeah,
careful, right?
right. Because
So,
yeah, he came away with the phrase "no hanky panky in the TARDIS."
right.
Yeah,
Mm.
which which isn't in the script. So what they were saying was we don't want there to be any kind of a visual cue that even suggests that something happens between scenes. That you know. So
So let
just
me.
the answer is no.
But on
Yeah.
screen, do we want to see the love interest of this, however old, alien and a human, or do we not want to see that?
Is that character development by having the Doctor
Mm.
do these things?
Mm.
Well, something that I noticed from the 4 specials that we've just had is 14's astonishment at him talking about people that he loves.
Yes.
And he says, do I say that now?"
Yeah.
And we've already heard Shooty do it too.
Mm-hmm.
So the 15th Doctor is a Doctor who loves. Um,
Mm.
and I think that's very interesting. I'm I'm old enough to remember the TV movie, which many people insisted for a long time wasn't even canon. Um, and I think Big Finish allowed Paul McGann to come back and plant his flag squarely again. Um, but um, but when the Doctor kissed Grace, I, in the fandom, I thought the sky was going to fall. People just said, "Okay, that's it. This is not Doctor Who."
Mm-hmm.
So, for a lot of people, that was a line in the sand. Yeah. Now, wow. I don't know.
And Wyngrace does bring up a very good point. Do we want that love interest to be Houdini? And I saw a image from Jodie Whittaker's era that shows a comment she made when the Doctor. I think it was the Witch Finders, where the Doctor is basically dunked for being a witch,
Hmm.
and when she frees herself, she comes out and says, "I spent a wet weekend with Houdini."
Hmm.
So my point, and this isn't where Wyngrace was going with that in any shape, form, or
Hmm.
fashion, but we have an alien being, and I'm curious to see when the 15th Doctor comes, and I have no speculation or whatever that there will be a love interest, there won't be a love interest.
Hmm.
Will it be um, Millie Gibson's character? Will it be someone else's character? Will it be
Yeah.
male? Will it be female? Regardless,
Right.
I'm curious as to how people react,
Hmm.
considering that we've established, even with the image that we've got on our screen, that this character can be a man or a woman, male or female.
Yeah.
You know.
And that, as has been said at least once now, it just doesn't matter. The Doctor is simply beyond such things.
Yes, indeed.
But the fact that the Doctor is thousands of years old, we've now said out loud, acknowledging heaven sent and hell bent and heaven sent. Um, I I guess I always keep going back to the thing that we heard 9 and 10 say to Rose. You can grow old with me, but I can't grow old with you.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't work that way for me, and you know, I I don't know. And then 13 had her tearful parting with Yaz, saying, I can't settle down. That's just not who I am. If I was going to, it would be with you. But, and I really think that is almost fundamental to the concept of the doctor. So, I don't know.
Mm.
Does the doctor get a proper mate?
Indeed, indeed. But you know what is proper is to give a quick shout out to the time scales. Greets from San Francisco. Greetings, greetings from San Francisco. And when Grace brought up something that I want to bring up as well, is River. He says we also had the River Song thing too. And I want to turn that into, is River an exception? And if so, why?
Mm.
Well, yeah, they're married.
True.
I
Yeah.
mean, this is canonical. This is established on screen and reinforced. And as many people have pointed out, when we first met the doctor, he had a granddaughter.
Hmm.
Um, this suggests a daughter, a
Right.
son or a daughter in between. About whom we've never heard a word.
Mm-mm.
So, you know, what the actual heck?
So, Lee, let's pass the baton to you.
Hmm.
What are your two picks that you want to take?
I was drawn to drawing comparisons between 11 and 13, um, because in some ways they both seem to have hit the ground, being befuddled, post regeneration, and their approach to the world was childlike. That they were just sort of trying to figure things out through process of elimination. Oh, is this what this is? No. Okay. Well, what about this? Is this it? No. I don't know what I'm looking for. And that stayed with them. That became part of their characterization. I'm sure as the actors, that was their plan all along. That's how they're going to go through life. Is just sort of, I've got to touch everything. I've got to taste everything. I've got to get my hands on things, and I'll draw people to me, and I'll um, hang on to them too as long as I can. That it's just sort of this hungry mind and a hungry soul that's pulling things in, and that I always thought that was essential to Matt Smith's portrayal of the Doctor. And then we saw Jodie Whittaker do it too.
Mm.
It makes them seem random. It makes them seem sort of frenetic. We
Yeah.
sometimes call 11 the autistic doctor. Um, because if you know and love people on spectrum as I do, that's exactly right. It's just is this what I think it is? No, it isn't. It's just the endless curiosity and the sometimes curious lack of social barriers or difference in understanding of social barriers, and that's just very much how the two of them were. So those are my bookends, 11 and
Mm.
13. Yeah.
Yeah. For 13, that franticness kind of to me felt like the doctor finally um, being in a woman's body, kind of
Mm.
experiencing some of that. And, this feels different. This is new, at least for the first few
Mhm.
episodes, it kind of felt
Right.
like that. Yeah, I really like that about her doctor. And I definitely
And
see.
ironic that the first thing he did was experience his long hair and say, "I'm a girl."
I'm a girl.
Yeah,
Girl.
yeah. Good
I'm a
point.
girl.
Good
And I'm
point.
still not
So,
ginger.
right.
Yeah.
One thing I do love about doing this show of discussing who is we can change the rules as we could go along, and I
Well,
want to
that's
change.
all right then.
That's all right then. So I want to change the rules a little bit before we go into the differences,
Hmm.
because I just noticed a comparison when you guys were talking about the 11th Doctor and his childlikeness. He does have at times, and one of the things that we did like about Matt Smith is how he could turn on a dime and look
Mhm.
from being this
Yes.
young face to looking more ancient, in my opinion, than, no offense to Peter Capaldi, but Peter Capaldi's Doctor ever did.
Hmm.
He had this old look, and I don't know what it is about Shudi's Doctor for 15, but there is something, and I don't want to say ancient about him because he's very youthful and he's very energetic, but there is, for all that maturity and that energy, I feel this matureness about the doctor,
Hmm.
and a it's weird to say calmness, but if you go back and you watch his interaction with 14 at the end of the giggle, he is the solidifying force. He's the voice of
Hmm.
reason. He's the one that's still having fun, but he is in control. And we've never, ever, ever, ever seen an incarnation of the Doctor as soon as we see him or her on the set, with the exception of Joe Martin's, the first time we see, but that wasn't post regeneration. She had been
Right.
around for a while. But
Yeah.
as far as we know it, post regeneration with 15, to have an ancientness, a calmness, a maturity about him. And the curious thing that I think is interesting, both of these actors at the time were two of the youngest actors to
Hmm.
play the Doctor, but yet they are showing something that is mature,
Hmm.
in my opinion. I just think
Oh,
that's really interesting.
yeah. We've been told that that was how Matt Smith got the job, but that in that last round of auditions, that somebody um, said, "It's amazing how old that young man can appear." And
Mm.
they said, "Well, that's it. That's it." But I think you're right onto something, Kyle or Clarence or whoever you are. Your screen says that you're Clarence.
Hmm.
Um,
Oh, hello. I'm Clarence
uh,
too. How did that happen?
you're just jealous. You just
Oh,
always wanted to be Clarence, and today
oh
is the day.
dear.
I'm Clarence too.
Anyway, that will make no sense to people listening to this on the
Now
audio.
I'm Clarence too.
Okay, there you go.
And that's all right then.
That's all right then. We're just changing our names on screen. Is all that's happening here. Anyway, um, yeah. What was I saying? I'm sure it was vital and important. Oh, that since 2005, what we've had is the Doctor with the world on their shoulders, specifically Gallifrey on their shoulders,
Uh,
and that includes John Hurt's Doctor, perhaps
yes.
more so than any of them. But this secret burden, uh, or even when it's not so secret, it's just they have the weight of the world on their shoulders, and because of the events after Day of the Doctor, I would say that 12 and 13 had that less, but then they had new things to
Yeah.
grieve about. And the problematic relationship with the Master is always something that weighs on the Doctor. And I'll be interested to see how, now that we've sort of hit refresh and we have a Doctor who seems to not be burdened with this stuff,
Yeah.
what's going to happen when the Master shows up?
Indeed. And I find it interesting because I will tell you guys what I assumed, and I assumed wrong, and I don't mind
Hmm.
being wrong because I very much enjoyed our conversation to the point, but I assumed that none of us would pick the 13th Doctor in our
Hmm.
comparisons. That was my
Interesting.
assumption,
Hmm.
and maybe that says more about me than it does about the two of you. But what was interesting, one of the doctors that I didn't expect us to omit is something that Win Grace and the time scales in our chat has brought up is the Ninth Doctor. None of us
Hmm.
went back and compared the Ninth Doctor, which we've said before, had the Ninth Doctor not worked, we might not still have Doctor Who around on the
Absolutely.
screens now.
Right. But he was very much, um, I mean, once we got the whole continuity and we saw that he comes directly out of Day of the Doctor, not knowing that they've actually saved Gallifrey, but he's the one who comes into this new face, knowing that he's the one who killed them all.
Man.
He is the last of the Time Lords, and we'd unpack that slowly over the Ninth Doctor's 1 year. But talk about a thing to have to live with.
And it's
Um,
interesting that you
yeah.
said that because the
Mm.
time scales in the chat said the Ninth Doctor also seemed like a very old being, yet in 2005 it was unclear if he had regenerated, recently or not, which is 100% true.
Yeah. The only clue we had was him pausing to look at his reflection in Rose and
Yes.
kind of tut-tutting about his ears. So
And the
apparently he'd
times
never seen them before.
and the time scales also says that you can call me Clarence also if you want.
Yeah, we can all be Clarence.
We can all be Clarence.
Yeah.
You get a Clarence, we get a Clarence, we all get to be Clarence. And let me pick up also that Wingrace says, I think we got a similar feeling from the start of Eccleston, but it was coming from a completely different end of the spectrum.
It's very raw. It's very fresh for him. Yeah,
Yes.
it's a yeah.
And
Yeah, it's the thing
go ahead,
about
Clarence.
Eccleston. It felt like he was, to me, trying to balance the weight of the world and fun. To me, Rose was his
Right.
release for the
Yeah.
fun.
Hmm.
But yeah, very much one of the doctors that had, that you could feel the weight the most from, in my opinion, because man, once he starts to tell about what happened to Gallifrey, just you could feel it. You could feel it permeating from him.
So let's go to the other end of the spectrum, at least how
Mm.
we said we were going to lay this out, which was compare and contrast. We were going to say the
Hmm.
difference, the what's the same, and now move into what's different. So I will start, and for some reason, I'm going to pick the 12th Doctor again, but I'm going to go against myself from where I started and actually pick the 13th Doctor. And if I were to say the biggest differences for me in 12 and 13, 12 felt like he had a weight because I felt like he realized this, and at least in canon as it was known at the time, you are the start, you're number one of a new cycle of regenerations.
Hmm.
So you had the weight of a 12 cycle before you. Now you have this new decision, and because it gets to the end where he's saying, I will not change, I don't want to continue being somebody else.
Hmm.
And the idea and the whole end of Twice Upon a Time of Nordal even saying you can rest if you want to,
Hmm.
you know, and then the
Yeah.
decision to go on. I felt like this doctor had a lot of weight that, at least if she did, it wasn't, at least in my opinion, portrayed as such. I didn't see a weight too much for her. I didn't feel a weight.
Right.
I think there was supposed to be a weight.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I didn't feel a weight
Yeah,
because if
And
you
if
look
it's
at
not in
what
the script,
happened,
man.
but if you look at kind of some of the things that happened, Gallifrey was, again, spoilers. Gallifrey was destroyed again. You find out everything you knew was a lie.
yeah,
Yeah.
it definitely didn't translate like it didn't hit like they wanted it to hit. I would say. I mean, going back to the 12th Doctor, and I could think of a few things right off that were very heavy. I think of what happened to Bill. I think of how he was trying to foster Missy. He was trying to bring her on board, bring his friend back. Those are very heavy and they hit hard. They kind of still stick with me.
Yeah.
But when I think of the flux and I think of some of the things that happened in Whitaker's run, did I feel the weight of those moments?
But let me add
I
this
don't
real
know.
quick. You know what you just did for me, Clarence? You just helped in that single comment. You just helped reframe Yaz and Ryan and Graham for what I've always called lack of characterization.
Mm,
Maybe the doctor chose them because they were easy. And meaning by
mm,
that, they didn't have a
Hmm.
lot of baggage. They were just
Mm.
companions. They were the
Yeah.
fam. There was no layer upon layer upon. They weren't the tragedy of Bill. They weren't the tragedy of Amy. They weren't Rose. They weren't
Yeah.
Clara. You know, they were just them. So if
Yeah.
you look at it from that perspective, it kind of makes them a little more endearing, maybe.
Yeah, I
Nah,
just I'm not buying it
I'm not
because
either, but I'm trying to be nice.
yeah, exactly.
I'm
and
trying
and
to what?
yeah,
Say
say something
something
nice.
nice.
Your effort is commendable. But yeah, you nobody. I don't think any of the companions have ever just had a big red flag flying. You know, when we brought them on board, that they're just said, "Oh, this is going to be trouble, but I'm going to do it anyway." That you know, I mean, we didn't think what happened to Bill was going to happen. You know, we didn't. You
Mm-mm.
know, when the doctor invited Rose aboard, he didn't think she's going to be marooned in another universe. You know,
Mm,
you don't you don't know, except
yeah.
that he's lived long enough and he's traveled with with enough different people. The body count is kind of high,
Not
so
the body count.
uh, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Mm.
Now
so,
in the chat, Jamie asks, "Do you think each doctor picks companions for what they, and I presume you mean what they, the doctor, or do you mean for what the companions need?"
yeah,
Because yeah,
because
I
you
could
could
read
answer
that
that
either way.
question.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's two different answers. But
So I want to come back to
huh,
Jamie's question, but I want to
oh,
ask Clarence your pick on the two to contrast, and we definitely want to come back to Jamie's question.
that's a very interesting question.
Okay, I'm gonna take a very silly point of view on this, and I'm going to speak of the wardrobe, um, where Jody's is just awful, and everybody else's is tolerable, but Jody's is just awful, man. It's, it, it still puzzles me that they went that direction with the trousers for her. It just feels weird. And all the guys have these cool leather and suits
Yeah.
and yeah, it's just odd to me that they would give her that costume. So yeah, I hate to compare it to everybody else, but yeah, that's just weird, man. It was just weird. I don't know. Thoughts?
Yeah, I was looking forward to her in the kind of quiet tweed that you would get from 10 and 11, you know? And
Mm.
I just thought, boy, she's going to rock that. Oh, we're not going to do that. Okay. Ah, well.
Mm.
Ah, well. Yeah. And the time scales points out it's still nothing compared to the six doctors.
But
Uh,
but
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 is it?
it's close. Well, that's it. It still means that it's hard for us to understand how she can walk around in any time in Earth's history, including the present, without just people just staring at her. So I don't know,
Yes.
but
And even when it doesn't do the outfit, the costume, the wardrobe any favors when an incarnation of the Doctor looks down at you with the glasses and say, "I, I become that, all rainbows and trousers that don't
hmm.
reach."
Yep, it
But
hurts.
Poetry, man, poetry.
in her
Yeah,
defense, they did at least give her trousers on her first appearance, not just put her in pants, which are American version of underwear, and a shirt.
that's true.
So that at least she did have
I-
pants or
Imagine introducing a
trousers.
doctor just in their pants.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
just yeah,
that's unheard of.
right.
It never happened.
Never
Never
happened.
happened. But that's all right then. Um, all right. So, Lee, what about your two comparisons before we come back to Jamie's question?
um,
I mean
or
contrast.
contrast. Yeah, I still think it's interesting that nine. Looking back from this point, nine ends up being so different, really, from all the rest. That, and I guess you could call that growth of the character, or just an evolving nature of the show. But I think that one of the things that makes the Doctor, um, throughout, I mean, from the first, from from John Pertwee on at least, because this is what that's when he gains control of his TARDIS, when he can go where he wants to go, approximately. Then it's all fun. It's like, let's go. You've never seen the fill in the blank of some exotic location, or uh, you got to see that. And so it's just the let's go see everything and do everything, and let's go spend time with people from your past. Let's just do it. And so that's why the very second adventure with the 10th Doctor, I'm going to take you to you know, another planet. Let's go see something, a million years in the future. Um, and 11 is all about that. And
Yeah.
9, not so much. It's about being dragged into situations and about, I tried this and it turns out that was a terrible idea. And I don't know what I was thinking. He took Rose to see the end of the world. Who, way to woo her on a first date, mate. But it's just like he just doesn't understand. As a reminder, he's an alien. He's a very old alien. And he's seen, as he says in that episode, I've seen planets die all the time. I don't know what you're so upset about. They're just the 10th Doctor, when asked for his name, rank, and intention. He says, Doctor
Not the
Fun.
doctor.
Yeah, no, he says Doctor Fun is his intention.
Yeah.
15 will then say, in the same situation, it will say Doctor Not a
Not a
Doctor. I
doctor.
thought it was very interesting. But
Yes.
yeah,
Not a doctor.
When Grace in the comments points out that Rose is probably the first human he spent time with since Grace, when he was the 8th Doctor. That it's been a long time as the War Doctor grew old. So yeah, he may have forgotten how to relate to human beings. In any case, he just isn't out for fun. And so we get a two-parter in which one of the story points is, does he dance? And that may have been a sexual euphemism or not. Either way, because I don't think it was clear.
Right.
But in any case, the question is still the same. Do you do things just for pleasure? Rose really wants to know. And we're with Captain Jack, who doesn't do anything else.
Yeah.
and so the contrast is just brought even more into
And you just brought
focus.
up an
Yeah.
interesting point back from the 2005 series. Was the purpose of Captain Jack originally to be anti-doctor and not be the
Yeah.
master, meaning
Right.
not be an evil doctor, but let's just be a time traveler and let's have fun.
Yeah, I really
Yeah.
think so. And to call the Doctor's innate seriousness kind of into contrast. Yeah, I think that's absolutely. If that wasn't the plan, it's certainly one of the things that works so well about that character.
And all jokes
Who I adore.
aside, I would love to see the reaction of Jack with 15.
Oh boy.
And what I mean by that is the exuberance that I keep talking about with 15, because now he is a lot more Jack like in the enjoyment and
It's more fun.
more fun. But back to the question that Jamie had, he is referring to they being the Doctor. So
Right.
asking it again, do you think each Doctor picks their companions for what they need in the
They
moment?
need, because that relates to what Clarence was saying earlier. I think about Rose, that she's sort of the antidote to what's killing the Ninth Doctor. Youth.
And
Uh,
my
she-
comment about the 13th Doctor's
well,
lack
maybe
of
so.
interesting companions
Hmm.
per se. you know
They are, to be fair, the first people she meets.
that is true.
But whatever.
Guilty by association,
Yeah,
companion
exactly.
by
Right,
association.
exactly. Just right place, the right time. Um,
Um,
yeah. Well, and we apparently the idea was toyed with. RTD says now of having the Doctor sort of kind of stalking Rose as she grows up, and that was rejected as that's just creepers.
yeah, it's
So
just Jeepers
uh,
Creepers.
even as well intended as the idea was that he's going to make sure she's the right one, but no, that's still just weird. So, but But I know we're talking about 2005 forward, but I always feel like Sarah Jane ends up traveling with the third and then the fourth Doctors because she met an important need in him
Hmm.
that he has been with people who are expository tools that he can sort of say, I'm glad you're here because I need you to hand me that thing that's across the room, But but the third and fourth Doctors took Sarah very seriously.
Yeah.
And if he's going to get back out there, he seems to have realized he needed that. I don't know.
Mm. And you know what I'm hearing? When you say that, I hear the 14th Doctor saying, I loved her. Back to your comment earlier of saying, this
Hmm.
is who that incarnation is. He
Yeah,
can say, I loved her. I
he
loved
couldn't
Donna.
say it before. Yeah.
Right.
Hmm.
Yeah, and sometimes it's the companion that's the one that's keeping them balanced, keeping them from going off the deep end.
Mm.
How does he sense that in the companion that he'll know he'll need that a little bit later?
Well,
Or,
a Runaway Bride ends with Donna being the one to say, "Okay, that's enough,"
Yeah.
and I think
or,
he remembered that. I'll
or
come back
does
for
the,
her.
or does the TARDIS secretly bring the Doctor to who they need?
Hmm.
So says Wimgrace.
Yeah.
So I want to bring in a comment, we all know that I love the 15th Doctor so far. So
Hmm.
not going to answer this question, but the time scale says Ncudi's Doctor is hard to figure out, at least for me. Thoughts from Clarence and Lee.
I think it goes to what you guys said earlier. I think he's going to be hard to figure out because he doesn't have the weight of the universe on his shoulders, and it
Hmm.
almost seems like I hate to use the word pivot, but just a new phase for how the Doctor exists. How does he exist when he doesn't have all of that weighing him down, and
Yeah.
he can truly explore without that pressure? I don't know.
So Jamie brings up an interesting comment. It says, seems to be that it is the companions that bring the problem to the series for the Doctor to work through.
Hmm.
And, and that's often true to the case. So let me pose it into a form of of a question for the two of you. Is it more interesting for the companion to be the focus of the quote unquote problem, or is it more interesting for there to be external forces for them to just travel into and solve? Or does it matter?
Hmm.
So what are we thinking the best two examples of that is
Yeah.
Clara and Amy maybe?
Mm, let's see.
Because I think of the different versions of Clara's, that's a problem for him to
That was a
Okay.
solve because
challenge.
he's
Yeah.
Right.
yeah.
That's a challenge to solve.
Hmm.
Rose just seems to be the companion. She just met him.
Yeah.
There wasn't a Rose mystery to solve. There wasn't saving Rose from this. She just
Hmm.
traveled with him until she couldn't travel any longer.
Yeah.
Oh, and right, the crack in the wall for Amy. That's
Yeah, we as much as said that he discovered the crack in the wall because he met Amy. And he also said that he met Amy because the TARDIS was drawn to the crack in the wall.
mm.
Mm.
So,
And Rose did bring the
yeah.
bad wolf. Jamie is 100% correct there.
Well,
Or did the doctor bring the
That
bad
was a
wolf?
result of traveling with the
I'm going to
Doctor.
say that's
Wibbly wobbly timey wimey.
exactly. That whole thing is about cause and effect. And yeah, um, she said, I create myself.
Now, the time scales brings up that the companions were originally the observers for the doctor to explain events to the people.
Yeah. And Ian to start with was supposed to be the handsome hero who's going to get to do all the heavy lifting and the fighting, you know. Uh, so we kept the young handsome man as part of the team for a long time. Various iterations of Ian, and then finally, I don't know. At what point do we say, "Oh heck, let's"? What the doctor needs is a cute chick.
I
John
would
Pertwee. Yeah.
say, well, yep, and then it would kind of go away a little bit because you had Turlo and you had Adric,
Hmm.
and then you went back whenever we got our friend Shannon's favorite companion of all time, Perry,
Right.
and then you definitely went back into damsel in distress mode.
Yeah.
Which
We'll
was no
stay there for
fault,
a while.
no fault of Nicola Bryant. It was just that's
No.
just the way it was. You know,
Yeah. I guess it's because John Pertwee wanted his doctor was the James Bond doctor. He didn't need to have some younger man there to do kung fu on people. He'll do it himself. Margot, So anyway,
so,
yeah.
so I have the perfect way to end our discussion to wrap it up. When Grace in the chat says, and I quote, "Which category did K9 fall into?"
Yeah. Companion or cargo?
Is he?
Yeah.
Affirmative. Who
Yeah.
knows?
I'm gonna anger some people by saying glorified Sonic. No, don't be
No,
mad at
I
me.
think it's hard to argue. He's a tool. He's there to be a tool.
He,
Yeah,
he was the first digital assistant. There you go.
that's right. So
There you go. All right. Well, I will say this to everyone in the chat. Thank you for joining us. Jamie, thank you so much to you for suggesting this topic. We hope you
yeah,
enjoyed it. It will be coming out for audio listeners right after, of course, the church on Ruby Road. But before we wrap up, Lee and Clarence, I would like to ask you, are there anywhere you would like to promote or anything you would like to promote? And Lee, I will start with you.
well, Kyle and I are both parts of the immensely silly podcast Oz 9, which has hit milestone after milestone of followers and subscribers, and I don't know. We're proud to be a part. They've joined the network called Fable and Folly, and that's helped a lot. And yeah, it's just so it's not too late to jump on board. God bless you. God help you if you jump on board the Oz 9.
I was fixing to say, God
Uh,
help you.
yeah, but yeah, it and Shannon Perry, the mad genius behind it all, she's been writing more and more fun things for me to do lately than I can. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I'm just grateful. I'm just really enjoying what we're getting to do these days. I think Kyle has lost his character's lost in space at this point.
Yes,
The narrator?
spoilers, but yeah,
Yeah,
I am lost at the moment. So
yeah. It's the kind of show where we could occasionally
get lost.
go meta enough to have a mystery where we're trying to find the narrator. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's
But luckily I'm narrator too, so we do
that's
have
right.
another narrator. She tells me to hush a lot, but
Yeah,
you know,
that's true.
and I am not a tour guide. But anyway,
In the comments, several people were pointing out that they would also like to be Clarence, and were postulating
the
Clarence
Council of
collective names,
Clarence.
Council of Clarence. I was going to propose the Legion of Clarence, um,
We
or,
are
or
Legion.
or perhaps the right, or the Clarence Collective. I guess then.
The Clarence.
I like that.
I think
Yeah.
I like. Well, there's three different Earths, and all three of those exist on three different Earths: the Legion, the Council, and the Collective of
There
Clarence.
you go. So
And all are ruled by Clarence Prime.
mhm.
There
Clarence
you go.
Prime,
The
like
clergy
the clergy
of
of Clarence. Yeah,
The Trek of Clarence. I don't know, but Clarence Brown. Where else might you be found on their internets?
So I'm going to urge everyone to check out a podcast that I did with Lee, along with Cal's on it a little bit too, called the Relativity
iTunes.
Podcast. Go listen and comment and tell Lee how much you love it, so maybe he'll write another one, because it's such a fun journey. And you can find that at relativitypodcast.com.
And in closing, before I end, I want to read one more comment because when Grace has referred to one of my favorite, if not my favorite, comic book story of all times, which is Crisis on Infinite Earths, but in this case, Crisis on Infinite Clarences.
Yeah.
There you go.
Establishing a Clarence averse.
A Clarence of Earth,
Oh
indeed.
man. Oh Lord. Not ready.
And with that, I will say, that's all right then. And I got it. I got it.
You got
Yes,
it, yeah.
I did.
Got
I
your
did. I
God.
did. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we will be back next time.